Hey, peace and love, family. I had to whip out my feds for this lesson today. I mean, gonna go in pretty deep, but I'm gonna try and make this one as short as possible, get to the point so that it won't be too long so I can share it on all social medias and really get my point across. But I wanna go in on foundational Black American versus Moorish American. Now, the brother Tariq Nasheed, famous for the Hidden Colors movie, he knows who the Moors are. He's in certain videos admitted about, Moors having certain legal strategies that are good or, could be helpful in certain situations. But he's also been talking a little greasy lately. So, I just want to correct a few things so, we set the record clear today. First things first. I would qualify as what Tariq Nasheed calls a foundational Black American. So I can trace my lineage, my family on my daddy's side and my mama's side, all the way back to Texas, in the 1800s, 1890s, maybe even a little bit further, according to Ancestry and things of that sort. So I don't want to be misconstrued as a foreigner or somebody that's coming in as what he calls a tether, trying to bring this argument. I want everyone to know that's listening that I'm also what they would consider a so-called foundational Black American. But the term Moorish American is just more legally appropriate and has actually been around a lot longer. So the fact that we started being called Black, Negroes, African Americans, coloreds, and all that thing, that stuff came because of slavery. But pre-slavery, we were known here on this land as Moorish Americans. And I'm going to show that pretty soon. Oh, and just for the record, I am 100% for our people, the so-called foundational Black Americans or Moorish Americans, who are the descendants of slavery, getting reparations for the wrongs that were done, for us being enslaved, throughout those periods of time. We can argue on how long it was, but I am 100% for reparations, just to set the record clear on that. All right, this is my family tree. So, I like to show and prove. So if you can see at the bottom, my great grandmother, it shows she was born in 1890. I couldn't find further than that when I still had my account going. They got some new hints, and I'm gonna have to go check that out, see what they got. But at the top, you can see, it goes a little bit further to Square Davis, where my family name, state name, comes from, Davis, also in Texas. It's not really much information on him, who's my third great grandfather, but Tom Willie Davis has a little bit more information. And I'll show you the dates on that. So, this is the great grandmother I was speaking. Boom, Tom Willie Davis, born about 1897, Houston, Harris County, Texas. So I'm indigenous to right here where I domicile right now. Just showing and proving. All right, so let's dive in just a little bit into this term Black, because the brother Tariq Nasheed in his Hidden Colors series has done very well for, breaking down this point that I'm about to make, him and other scholars that were on there. But basically, it's showing that in this slide here that the Black race does not exist, but was theorized by Johann Friedrich Blumenbach. I hope I said that right. That's like German or something like that, and this brother was born in 1752, died in 1840. So, oh yeah, and it says his nationality was German. All right. So, basically, Black is a relatively new term that's out here, but we've always been known as Moorish American, and the source I'm about to show is actually going to prove and be around this same time period, contemporary with Johann Friedrich Blumenbach. All right, now this book here, Morocco as It Is, as you can see at the bottom, I've highlighted it was published in 1893. So it was written before then, would have been around the same time period as Johann Blumenbach was around. you know. So he was contemporary to this knowledge as well. He would have known what was going on. So, in here, in this book, in several different pages, this is 269, they mention Moorish American and Moorish peoples. There's one spot that says, his face, however, was radiant with delight. This strange Moorish American companion of mine. This was a European that went over to Morocco in this book, and he was writing about things that were going on. And at the time, they were calling brothers over here Moorish Americans. 269 again, 266. This one here is really interesting, so I'm gonna go in just a little bit. The Swanee men and the Moorish Americans, I regret to say, get along very badly with one another. They are continuously at strife and fighting as to whether England or America is the most powerful nation of the earth. They soon learned that the Sultan of America was about to send the Sultan Muli Hassan an elephant so large that the elephant would seem, in comparison to him, as insignificant. Now, this is stating that there was an American Sultan, or the Sultan of America, and Muli Hassan was the Sultan of Morocco at the time. So not only were there Moorish Americans at this time, but there was a Moorish Sultan in America at that time. All right, so now this is where I'm gonna have to get deep and go in on status and status correction, because this is where I think he was talking greasy, not understanding really what's going on in law. So just like there are Moors that wear fez, that talk about status correction, that doesn't mean they can necessarily articulate it and put it into the way that I'm about to. So maybe the brother Sabir Bey that was in Hidden Colors couldn't break it down like this, and he hasn't heard anyone else break it down properly. But that doesn't mean that it has no validity. Just like the brother Tariq Nasheed wouldn't want us listening to Jesse Lee Peterson because he calls him a coon and things of that sort, and he wouldn't be a good representation of what is for us. So let me get into it. All right, so this is a post that I recently put up, and it really had nothing to do with this particular conversation, but it did, because it was actually intended for other Moors that talk bad about status correction as well. But status is used in reference to legal state of being an infant, ward, or prisoner. It also means a state, signifying a relationship between an owner and his property, similar to an artist owning his likeness and masters. Prince corrected his status when he changed his name to a symbol and took control of his masters. So even though Prince wasn't necessarily a proclaimed Moorish American, he corrected his status. So give me a second and I'm gonna show and prove out of the dictionary these exact definitions. All right, now this is the definition straight off of, I want to say it was legaldictionary.com, where it has these 3 different definitions right here, and I kind of just compiled them all together to basically bring my point together. But it talks about the rights, obligations, capacities, and incapacities of a given class, or in reference to legal state of being an infant, ward, or prisoner. But also in the last definition, it also means the state, because it signifies the condition or circumstances in which the owner stands in regard to his property. Now, we can go in later on what property it is and talking about and things of that sort, but status correction is pretty much how I broke it down, where you're taking control of your likeness and property and things of that sort. Now, I do understand, what he's saying, that, white supremacy, they do what they want and this and that. So when it comes to Moors, our legal strategies only go so far. So if the policy enforcer wants to shoot you on sight, there's nothing that a Moor can do. nothing that a Moor can say that is going to get them out of that type of jam. But anything less than that, there's a little bit more that we can do. And it goes into the things that Moors teach in status correction. So it's not necessarily like he say somebody just wanting 29.95 out of you and things of that sort. No, there's actual legal implications. And I go further into this in my other videos, so you can check out my channel for that. But I'm not going to go into it now for time's sake. But just as the brother Tariq Nasheed said himself, there is some legal validity, you know, into Moorish strategies. And this is one of them, what we call status correction. So in short, we can see where the term black comes from. It was from a European. So personally, I would go with, you know, foundational Moorish American instead of foundational black American, or something along those lines. It would be more proper in law. But I'm not trying to argue, you know, per se, what you should call yourselves. I can't tell you what frequency to identify with, but I can tell you what the law says and, you know, where black comes from and things of that sort, and let you make your own decisions. But, you know, I want everybody to know, and this is not directly for Tariq Nasheed, but more for the people that follow him and have been watching him over the last month or so, talking bad on Moors with the feds. We not all bad. You know, I'm a foundational black American, you know, just like y'all. But, you know, for legal purposes, you know, we understand as Moors that, you know, that's a more correct term, you know, and we can have that argument later on, you know, after we get our reparations, if that's how y'all want it. But peace and love, family.